Yo, what is good, everybody? I got something special for you all today. Right now, we are starting something new on this channel. We're calling it Live Mondays, where me and my boys we go live and we talk about not only Atlanta sports, but everything in between. And my two boys right here, they'll tell you a lot more about them, but they'll give you expert takes on what's going on around sports, what's going on in Atlanta, and we'll talk a little bit about the Colts. But more specifically, let me get to these two gentlemen first. I'm gonna first go to Kendall, and then I'm gonna go to Malcolm. I'm gonna introduce Kendall, let him tell you a little bit more about himself, and then I'll go over to Malcolm. So kicking it over to you, Kendall.
Hey guys, pleasure to be on. Thank you, Jay, for having me on. Name's Kendall Vickers. Known Jay for 10 plus years, known Malcolm for 10 plus years. We all went to Tennessee together. I played football at Tennessee, played D line from 13 through 17. And I've been in the league. First year, I was in the CFL in 2019. Got to the NFL in 2020. Been here since. And it's a pleasure to be on. Love sports, man. Basketball, football, baseball, really doesn't matter. I've always loved the game. And it's just a pleasure to be on. Thank you, Jay.
Cool. Sounds good. Now kicking it over to Malcolm. Tell us a little bit more about you, Malcolm.
Yeah, man. So I'm Malcolm. Like I said, I've known Jay 10 plus years. Same with Kendall. We're all football guys from college, so it's a lot of experience. Kendall was on the D line, I was in the secondary, so that's my bread and butter. I love to see the back end there. Favorite team, favorite player, every sport. Got the Sunday tickets, the league passes, the extra innings. So there ain't too many sports that done got past me. I ain't seen in the past, 25, 26 years. So I love it all.
These two gentlemen are being modest. These guys eat, breathe, and live football, basketball, whatever. And that's good because we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. As you know, there's this big thing that happened yesterday called the Super Bowl, and the Kansas City Chiefs fell short in their three-peat. So I asked both of you, where do the Kansas City Chiefs go from here? They fell short. Everyone had high expectations for them, and they just simply got blown out. So going over to you, Kendall, where do the Kansas City Chiefs go from here?
Yeah, so first and foremost, you're always going to be in a good position when you got Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. Let's put that out there first and foremost. Where I feel like they have an issue and they need to get fixed in the offseason is parts of their O line they need to clean up, whether it's the tackle positions, the D line of Philly. I don't know if they run 8 to 10 guys on that D line. Seems like everybody was getting in on the action yesterday. Josh Sweat had a hell of a day. Brandon Graham was going crazy in his last year in the NFL. Congrats to him. Nolan Smith had a hell of a game. And that's not even talking about the interior guys, but I do feel like Kansas City Chiefs interior center and guard positions are pretty good. Their tackle positions, though, I feel like they need to get cleaned up. They've been shaky all year. That left tackle position hasn't really been a bright spot for them this year. And another thing I want to add on to that is Travis Kelce. What does he do next year? Does he retire? And if he does, they need to figure that spot out as well because he is a blanket from a home security blanket that not many people in the league have. So going forward with that, those are the three things that I feel like they need to take care of this offseason. And the defense is the defense. I believe their defense is top 2 in the league. I just think this was a one-off. So if they could shore up that offensive line and see what they got on the perimeter, whether it's Travis Kelce or receiver, then we'll figure that out this offseason.
Okay, so like you said, offensive line is key, plugging and playing. I'm just going to shift it over to you, Malcolm. Do you think the
Uh,
dynasty is done? Do you think they have an opportunity to come back and win again?
uh, the dynasty, I don't think is done, right? Because if you come back and win next year, we'll be, what I'm saying? We've seen them lose a Super Bowl and then come back and win a couple more. We shouldn't get blown out of the Super Bowl very similarly and come back and win a couple more. Um, I think a lot of the stuff like Kendall said, obviously he plays the Chiefs, it feels like every year. So obviously he's very familiar with their personnel. Um, I think one of the positions that I agree with everything you said as far as their personnel. I think one of the positions, Rasheed Rice going down early, showed up yesterday.
Right.
But I think that, and I love this brother. He's Puerto Rican. Salute to my Latino brothers, but um, they got to do something about the running back position. I like Pacheco. I know Kendall, you said he runs hard and stuff, but I feel like they can get a little bit more from that. I know Barkley didn't have the greatest game, by his standards yesterday, but Barkley has been their home run hitter. They added if we compare it to baseball, they added Otani or Aaron Judge to their roster this year. That's what Barkley was. A lot of people, including myself, probably feel like he should have been MVP. I think they need to get a bump there. I'm not saying you got to go get you a Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley level running back, but there are guys that I think could really, really help that team um, very, very quickly. And one's a backup. We'll probably get into that a little bit later. But obviously the draft gives you good ones. They're not going to get Genty or somebody, but I think another running back, I think will really help them a lot.
I'd like to add too, when it comes to Mahomes, he's the guy, right? But
Yep.
it becomes really hard to play superhero ball all the time. And they've gotten away with it this year. How many games did they win by one possession? Is something crazy.
All of them.
It seemed like all of them.
them.
That's tough. And you're in uncharted waters when you do that every single game. So and some of those games, it only takes one play where you end up on the losing side. So hopefully they can get somebody to go in, and Mahomes doesn't have to do everything. He was running for his life yesterday. So there's really not much he could have done. But I will say that a lot of the onus is on the quarterback in today's game, and he's going to get a lot of that blame. So if they can get a lot of that stuff on the O-line figured out and see what Travis Kelce does, and Travis Kelce also, he didn't have the greatest game yesterday. So I don't know how much he has left in the tank either. And as great of a career as he's had, the retirement talks have been getting louder and louder and louder. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, last thing on that one. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, we talked about kind of Travis Kelce, talked about the Chiefs. Who do you think ultimately is to blame in their loss yesterday? Do you think it was just a team loss? Could you point to a specific person, player, strategy, OCDC? Who would you say is the reason they lost yesterday?
Go ahead, Malcolm.
I think their defense played actually pretty good. It's just my personal opinion. I'm watching this game. So a lot of, I'm not blaming Spags. That none of them, I mean, no one stopped Barkley this year except them. So I got to, so I got to show you respect there. If I got to point blame, I got to put it on the O-line. If I just got to put somewhere, the O-line got beat by their D-line pretty bad. I'm a DB. I do like Trent McDuffie. I think he's actually secretly a really, really good corner. I like his game a lot. And they play a lot of man coverage. So obviously AJ Brown is like the best, one-on-one receiver in the NFL. So that's a tall task. But if I had to point one thing, I would have to go to the O-line. You would have wanted more from Kelce, but the Eagles got a corner who I'm a big fan of. Kendall knows about him. The rookie DeJean. I've always thought that brother was good. He had a pick six yesterday. When he there was a play where he jammed Kelce at the line. It was like a third down. Ended up being an incomplete. And I was like, yeah, I haven't seen nobody do that to Kelce. Not since your boy used to play with Kendall, the linebacker that don't play no more.
Littleton?
Other since him, that was years ago.
Yeah.
Since that, I think he was with the Rams when he did that.
Yeah.
So this was years ago. I hadn't seen. I had to text you about that. I was, I thought I was hallucinating for a second, because Kelce just does that little move, then he catches it, then he steps back inside. You almost know it's coming, and no one stops it.
Yeah, nobody. Yeah.
But I just think, I don't want to put blame on stuff. I put the O-line, but I just felt like Philly. Again, we're all Tennessee guys. This reminds me a little bit of when Ohio State played Tennessee. About 5 minutes into the game, you're like, yo, Ohio State's way better than Tennessee. We're watching Ohio State play Oregon. You're like, Yo, they're way better than Oregon. Like, I don't, who were we talking about prior to this? And that's kind of how I felt about this game. I'm watching this and texting you, Kendall. I'm like, I don't know how they're gonna win this game. I don't see the pathway right now. So I just felt like Philly was just better team this year.
No, yeah, I agree. I would also say that when you get beat like that, that's not ever just one thing,
Yeah,
but you could start up front.
yeah, 100%, 100%.
And the D line for Philly kind of exposed the whole game plan of what Kansas City was trying to do. So, and that's been the recipe. The last Super Bowl they lost, what happened? Mahomes
Same
was
thing.
running for his life, and that's kind of the results you get. So, I like to point that out, and also too, I am going to put some onus on Andy Reid, and
I agree.
as a play caller, um, you have to understand what you have. And Andy Reid is Hall of Fame, one of the greatest coaches of our era. But going in, I do believe he got outcoached by Nick Sirianni. And
I agree.
Nick Sirianni had a great game plan going in. Um, they weren't able to really run the ball like that, but they stuck with it. And that is the thing that I always love when I see a team who is trying to accomplish the things that Philly did yesterday. Run the ball. They're not stopping you in the air. Like AJ Brown had his way, Devontae Smith had his way. Jalen Hurts had a great game, but Saquon is your horse.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to hand him the ball 20, 25 times. I'm not sure how many carries he had, but regardless of whether it was a 1-2 yard run, they kept going to it, kept going
Mm.
to it, kept going to it. And I really love that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I appreciate that from both of you. So now we talked about, how the Chiefs fell short. Who is your favorite to win the Super Bowl next year? Kendall, I know you have some, or may have a dog in the race, but who do you think, from a standpoint perspective, you think has the best chance to win next year? And we
Um,
can't say the Eagles, because that's I feel like that's lazy. So other than the Eagles, who do you anticipate winning next year?
yeah, I mean, yeah, the obvious answer would be the Eagles, just the way the roster is set up and all that stuff. But I do really like Detroit. They went from learning how to win to, oh, okay, they kind of went on a run last year, and lost to San Francisco. And this year they were the team for most of the season. Um, and things kind of just didn't go the way in the playoffs. That happens sometimes, whatever. I do believe that Detroit has a really good shot of coming back in. Jared Goff has had a hell of a season this year. I believe it's his best season as a pro. But also too, San Francisco, with all what they had going on during the offseason, whether it was uh who are they gonna be able to sign all their guys, and coming into the season, injuries played a part in what they had going on. Christian McCaffrey, was in and out of the lineup. So I believe healthy San Francisco, can really make a push in the NFC. Um, they've always really been a put together roster. So I believe San Francisco, as long as they stay healthy, as long as Purdy keeps improving every single year, I feel like they will be in a position to make it and win the Super Bowl next year.
Before Malcolm, you go, we got a shout out from Devo Vibes. He said, "What up, fellas? The season has come to an end. The hardest part of the year for me. Me
Yeah.
too, Devo.
Same,
You gotta
same.
watch basketball, and then you'll figure it out from there." So, but go
Go hang
on,
with your wife.
Malcolm. Go on, Malcolm. What is who do you have winning next year, and why?
Okay. Well, obviously the teams that just played are very easy answers. Probably the easiest one is usually the loser in this case. But I would probably I'm gonna go off the cusp and not go Kansas City, not go Philly, though I do think they'll both at least be on the divisional. I think I like the Rams a lot. The Rams, if you look at the way they played Philly, gave them the most trouble this year. As great as Philly's O line was, they was beating up Philly's O line like Philly was beating up Kansas City's. you know,
Yeah.
and Burst and those boys was, them young boys only gonna get better if they keep doing what they're doing.
Boy's nice.
Um, my only concern with the Rams is there seems to be some uncertainty with Matt Stafford. Now this is baking in Matt Stafford coming back, and there's even talks of Devontae Adams going out there, again, this is that time of year. So I actually like in the NFC. If I had to pick one team that I can project out, I love what the Rams do. The only problem with the Rams, a lot like Cincinnati, they always start slow. They're like 4-6 in the middle of the season, and then they like start winning six in a row. And I think that's why they lost to Philly because they were in the snow. So um, I know this isn't a real answer, but whoever gets Miles Garrett, if he goes to, I mean, because that is I don't know what, who he's linked to, but if Miles Garrett goes to, there's talks of him going to Philly, which would, I mean, we know what that'll do. Hell, we really know what that'll do based off what we saw last night. Um, if he goes to Washington, I think Washington's got to get a little meaner up front for me to take them serious as a Super Bowl contender. They got the quarterback, like the OC. They got to get a little more horses up front. They got to get better secondary. But if Miles Garrett were to go to Detroit, I'll just put a prediction. If Miles Garrett goes to anybody that won 8 or more games, they will be my favorite, because I think he's that good. Um, so if I had to pick a team, I would go to Rams just because I know what they got and I believe Stafford gonna be there. In the AFC, I'd probably pick and somebody's got to catch Kansas City. I mean, Lord Jesus. I like Houston because Houston's got some of the elements. If you look at when they played Kansas City, now they got into some, refs and all that stuff, but I like Houston's D line. I need Houston to stay healthy, and I think if Stroud can get a little bit back towards this first year, I think they got an opportunity. Because now what last night showed you, you don't need to be. Yeah, we know Burrow and Brady had been a superhero to beat them, but if you just play composed, I mean, a lot of people forget Hurts to win an interception too. If you
Yep.
can just make enough good plays and just stick to your plan and don't coach a scared game, I think Houston's got some of the opportunities. And that's assuming they make some moves, obviously. Now, if they, trade a superstar, all bets are off. But I would probably say Houston and the Rams next year. If I just had to pick, assuming no big trade happened, which I'll be wrong on that one.
Gotcha. Well, appreciate it. Yeah, I totally agree. I think all those have an opportunity to go. But moving on, I know we beat a dead horse at the Super Bowl. Everyone is literally talking about the Super Bowl. But I want to go back to the NBA trade deadline and switch over to NBA. A lot of moves happened. Obviously, the Luka Doncic trade and several trades that made it one of the biggest trade deadlines, I think, in history. I'm asking you both. Who do you think won the NBA trade deadline? Kendall started off.
Well, yeah. So I'm the Lakers. And the only reason I say that is because anytime you get a 5-time first team All NBA guy at 25 years old, I think he turns 26 in a few months or something like that.
Yeah.
You win the trade. Like you're set up for the next 10 years, and people want to say future, but Luka's in a position now. I know the Lakers have some things that they got to get cleaned up. They had to trade get rescinded, but you got to be able to win a few games with Luka Doncic and LeBron James off that alone. So the Lakers, I feel like, won the NBA trade deadline. I do think Dallas did get a lot back, in return with Anthony Davis. He did just get hurt. But also too, I did watch the game with Anthony Davis in. I saw the vision. Of what Dallas wanted to do. Their defense looked great, amazing. And having Kyrie as the ball handler running that offense did look really good. So, but I'd have to go with the Lakers. Anthony Davis just got hurt, so I'd say they won the trade deadline.
Malcolm?
Really good pick there. The more I think about it, I think Boston wins the title this year. And the reason why I'm not going to pick the Lakers or Dallas is because I don't think either of them win the title this year. I'm gonna go to San Antonio Spurs. They
Okay.
got De'Aaron Fox, and I think his compliment, and they were able to keep Chris Paul. And De'Aaron Fox is very athletic. We know about his playing. Obviously, he had the famous game against Lonzo in college, and a couple of years with the Kings there. So learn from a Chris Paul. They still kept Stephon Castle. Um, Obviously, we know about Wembanyama, right? You're still being coached by Popovich there. Like, I think maybe not this year. Maybe if they get to the play-in, maybe get in the playoffs, get some experience. I think they could be a championship contender in very short order, within the next year or two. Wimby keeps ascending. I think him and Fox are going to complement each other a lot like what we're looking for in Dallas, but they got the younger version. Fox is not the same a as a Kyrie type of player, but you see now how you said you see the vision. That's how I feel about the Spurs, but a younger version. So I'm gonna actually go with San Antonio because I think they will win a championship with that group with that duo there.
Well, like, so what's the question? Is it who won the NBA trade deadline for this year, or is it who won it for the future? Because if that's the case, like another team we didn't really mention, like the Warriors for this year, anytime you get Jimmy Butler, and
Mhm. It's good. It's a good pick.
I like, I don't know what the Miami Heat are doing. I really don't, and we'll get into that later. But anytime you trade a type of Jimmy Butler type of player to play with a guy like Steph, play with a guy like Draymond, defensive guys, Steve Kerr is one of the best coaches in the NBA. Like, I don't really understand what Miami was doing. I think we're going to get into that. I think they're a loser, but the Warriors, I do feel like, are another team that we need to mention as well when it comes to guys that they got
It's
to
a good
trade
move.
deadline. Yeah.
That was a good move.
Appreciate it. And for those looking and watching, stay with us. We're going to get to Atlanta stuff. We first want to get just to the big NBA trade deadline, and then we'll dial down to Atlanta. So moving on, I know you guys said the Spurs, obviously the Lakers. Other teams are winners of the trade deadline. Who would you say is the biggest loser or the deadline loser this cycle?
Yeah. Miami. Like, and for those who don't know, I am a huge Miami Heat fan. I know, Jay's a big Hawks guy. We have arguments all the time about the two teams, and we have, some battles in the playoffs and the play-ins and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't understand what Miami's doing. First of all, Pat Riley, you are always preaching about you want guys who are Miami Heat guys. Like, that's a whole thing. The workouts and the NBA combines and all that stuff, the workouts you have, or your legendary workouts, and all these guys talk about, yeah, Pat Riley, this, that, and the other. Well, for the past couple of years, you were supposed to get Damian Lillard. That never happened. Damian Lillard wanted to come to Miami.
Yeah.
And then you talk about we're not trading Tyler Hero for guys like James Harden and stuff like that, which was fine, like whatever. But we're not getting anything in return. You're wasting Bam's years, and you get rid of your guy, your dog of the team. Like, you're butting heads with Jimmy Butler for whatever reason. I don't know what's going on in the locker room, and then you trade him for Andrew Wiggins, which doesn't really make sense either, because Andrew Wiggins has had a lot going on over these past couple of years himself. So, like, you plug him into the roster, and I just watched the game, and Boston is completely exposing us right now. So, I'd say Miami, and I don't even think it's particularly close. And I do think Miami potentially set us back a couple of years, because we're in no way, shape, or form contending for these next year or two.
Mm. I understand the Miami take. I think that's a very easy take. I'm gonna go Minnesota. We were talking about Dallas making the move, right? We talk about Miami making the move, right? These teams have lost finals recently. Minnesota lost in the conference finals. You trade away Karl Anthony Town, you got the Nick Rowley, right? You don't bring anything in. I don't see it with the Timberwolves this year. I'm looking at the cat trade, and I'm like, well, maybe they trying to line something up for the deadline or whatever. I felt like there was opportunities Minnesota could have made. You got to find a way to get some more. You got to get some more punch on offense. I'm not here to disrespect Rudy Gobert. I'm not here to do all that. But you got to do you got to do something else. You know what I'm saying? You got to if you're gonna keep him, you got to figure you got to do something else. And we'll leave it at that. So I just feel like Minnesota is going to be. They got a chance to be like I know we were talking football recently, like a team that made a run one year in football and like just disappeared off of the face of the earth. I don't know who comes to mind like that, but Minnesota feels like they're playing that game in basketball, where they made this run and then like they went back to mediocrity pretty fast. So I thought there were moves to be made. Anthony Edwards was on the US team. We know the recruiting that goes on there. Got to give me one person to come play with him. Got to give me one person. You know, I mean, I think they could have used the De'Aaron Fox if he wanted to be out as much as they were saying. I mean, you got guys around the league saying they hate their teams. Jimmy Butler said, I refuse to play over here. You know, I know he played in Minnesota before, different circumstance. Cat ain't there, Wiggins ain't there. I would like to see Jimmy and Anthony Edwards get it in together as a 2-3 combo there, two-way wings there. I
Yeah.
feel like Minnesota quietly, no one's gonna say nothing, but I think they've made three ridiculous trades. The trade they did make, the trade away of Cat, and the trade for another center I'm not gonna name. I don't want to put that brother down. He's provided for his family. But 5 picks for Rudy Gobert is outrageous. And it gets more outrageous every time I watch.
Well, if you're not gonna say it, I will. That was absolutely ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Rudy Gobert, a defensive. I don't want to veer off here, but Rudy Gobert as a defensive player of the year, how many times?
It doesn't matter. It should have been any.
You're a defensive player of the year and a liability in the playoffs. How does that work? After the first defensive player of the year, and I saw what he was doing in the playoffs with Utah, I'm not. No, 5 first-round draft picks is the worst trade in NBA history. Because you just got Luka. You only had to give up 1 draft pick. You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
Or 1 first rounder. So like, I don't understand what Minnesota is trying to do. I do agree with you on that as much as I would like to disagree with you on the show. But Minnesota as a team during the trade deadline got worse. They didn't even do anything. So
I got another team forgot to mention too. Philadelphia. Their season's quietly. I know the Eagles just won a Super Bowl, so in Philly, we know how they are up in sports town. Philly, they rocking with Saquon and them right now. But best believe after that parade, they're gonna circle back around to them Sixers.
Yeah.
And I think so. Embiid and Paul George are having a good time watching Barkley and them celebrate, but they're gonna come talk about them here in a minute. And I think they could have used a DeAndre Hunter. Because Paul George just has not been Paul George this year. That's just, well, maybe this is the new Paul George. So maybe that is. I think they could have used a DeAndre Hunter. If I think he's the leading candidate for 6 man. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but Philadelphia, if you're trying to win a champ, because you're not playing for the future, you're not like these guys aren't like San Antonio, where you got 10 years, you're Luka, you're 25. Embiid is 30 and he's old like he's 40. Paul George is actually 34 years old, right? You got to do something. This team is supposed to win now. Right now, as of this morning, they were the 11th seed.
disaster.
That's not a playing team. Again, the national media ain't talking about it because the other Philadelphia team is winning. But again, after the All-Star break, they're going to circle back around to them Sixers, And I think them being quiet, not going to get a DeAndre Hunter, right, who I didn't know was available, I think that's going to end up costing them. So those are my 2 losers per conference: Minnesota, Philadelphia.
Totally fair. Now, I think there's a lot of losers this year. I mean, you got to think Hornets too. They had a trade rescinded. That's probably the first time I've heard of that in a long time. They were trying to, I guess, sneak things on the rug. Who knows? But that's neither here nor there. Now, moving on, we're headed to a little bit toward Atlanta sports. We're headed that way, and we're going to talk about our favorite guy, our favorite quarterback in the league, and that's Mr. Kirk O'Chain's Cousins. My
Mm.
question to both of you is, will Kirk Cousins get another shot at starting in the NFL? Now I know, like I said, we all have had it somewhat experiences with Kirk Cousins, the good, the bad, the ugly. But do you think he will ever play again? And if so, do you think he will ever start again?
I'll let Kendall go. Yeah, y'all played him twice this year, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, backstory. I played for the Saints this year, so Kirk Cousins. I was confused. I was confused about him signing his deal in the first place. Off a torn Achilles, which we've seen that's really hard to come back from at the quarterback position. So, and you're not Aaron Rodgers, so that's confusing to me. I don't believe so. And I think that Atlanta should have started Penix to start the year as well. Penix was a really great college quarterback. You know, he had some injury issues in college. Cleans that up. Has a hell of a season. His last year in Washington, goes to the national championship game, and surprisingly gets drafted by the Falcons. And I know a lot of Falcons fans did not understand the trade at that time, or the draft at that time, because you just paid Kirk Cousins all this money for 3 years, and he's going to be a franchise quarterback, and everything's going to be gravy, and y'all going to win a bunch of games and go to the playoffs, and Kirk Cousins is going to be the guy. And then he lays an egg halfway through the season. So it looked like in the end of the season, he didn't even land off of his leg. So I'm just confused on what the Falcons were doing in the first place when it comes to that. I don't think Kirk Cousins will get another shot at starting in the NFL. I know he just said that he has a lot left in the tank. I did not see that. And the game that we lost to, that first game in Atlanta, he didn't play well in that game either. Y'all came out with the win, but it wasn't because of him. So I don't believe he'll get a shot. And we'll see if any other teams are that desperate, but I don't believe it'll happen.
I would have loved to disagree with you, but after watching the Super Bowl last night, it is a copycat league. And Kirk Cousins has never been the Pat Mahomes prototype, and he definitely never been the Jalen Hurts prototype. So usually if you don't fit between any of those, kind of get slim pickings, right? Kirk, there's talks of Cleveland. I think Kirk Cousins, if he does start, I think it would be a situation like a Joe Flacco's been, where he'll come in as a backup and have to do that. And I don't want to disrespect Kirk Cousins, right? Because Jay, I know you've met him. Kendall, I know you played against him. My boy Mac used to play with him in Minnesota, speaks very high of him. Like they're like buddies. They speaks very high of him. I think that Kirk, I just don't see it. If I'm the Jets, I'm not doing it. If I'm the Saints, I'm not doing it. If I'm the Raiders, I'm not doing it. Pittsburgh, I'm just thinking of teams that could even, if Stafford leaves the Rams, I'm not touching. I know that people on that tree love him. I'm not touching that. I think the way it ended for Atlanta this year and how much zip you saw on Penix immediately, it became to a point where people were criticizing Morris forever not putting Penix in from the jump. Like if Penix came in and laid an egg, you would have been like, well, maybe Kirk was better at Gant. I saw 3 passes. I was like, what are we talking about? You know?
Yeah.
And and the second, because me and Jay went to the game, obviously, you gave us the stuff for the game. You're right, he didn't play good that Falcons game, the first one in Atlanta that we won. The second one, he kind of coached the game. I know he says he got hurt, but if you look down the stretch, that New Orleans game, that Chargers game, there's no explanation for that. You know,
No.
like I said, he played 3 good games this year, and 2 of them against Tampa. So I don't know what they were calling different against Tampa. You had the last drive against Philly and the 2 games against Tampa, but Against Pittsburgh, he wasn't really that great. Some of the other wins, the team was just more talented. He also does have really elite running backs. So I don't, one of the best O lines in the league, I think, was ranked number 2 coming into the season. I think is ranked by Pro Football Focus like number 3. I mean, come on, bro. Like, I don't. I think Derek Carr and Sam Darnold would get jobs before him. I'm just being honest.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
Kirk, the way he kind of threw the Falcons up under the bus, the whole hype about Kirk Cousins is supposed to be like the ultimate team guy, this and that. That wasn't what his brand is. That's against his brand, and I can't. I personally wouldn't touch it, but I could see. I think he'll be the backup for the Colts to start the season. Now, what happens with Richardson, that's one thing, but I think he'll start as the backup.
Yeah, I don't wanna cut you off. I think Jay's having technical difficulties, so um,
Mm.
but I do believe I do agree with you. I don't think that Kirk Cousins really. Again, I was confused on him signing that big old deal in the first place. Not really. I don't really understand, and it's funny because Raheem Morris, you could tell that he expected so much more out of him. He expected so much more out of him. He felt like he had a guy, at least for that 1 year, that could come in and be,
Alex Smith.
yeah.
Could be Alex
And
Smith to Mahomes. Yeah.
the disappointment I would see on his face sometimes, um, it's just it's disappointing. It's disappointing. So, um,
Now, quick question. I do want to ask this. When y'all are game planning for Kirk Cousins, what is, from a defensive side, what is y'all take on Kirk? Because, from the outside looking in, we might have a view, but when you seeing it on tape, what were you seeing from Kirk Cousins on tape this year?
mobility is an issue.
Mm.
And as a quarterback, I don't want to use mobility as like this crutch. Who some quarterbacks can't run, you can't run, whatever. But mobility is clearly an issue. I think we got Jay back on here.
Mm.
Can you hear us, Jay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Kirk Cousins, he's a guy who he can't move. And like I said, in the first game, I believe it looked like he couldn't even plan off of that Achilles leg to
Yeah.
throw the ball. And I don't know how confident he was in real live action to do that. But game plan going into stopping Kirk Cousins and not even, just the Falcons in general was put pressure on him, obviously, but he can't run out of it. He can't run out of it. And his decision making when he is out of the pocket is not like any of the young quarterbacks we see today. So he will throw it to you. And that's not really that's not really what you want to be, known for today. And he had, Kirk Cousins had a great career. Like he played really well in Minnesota. That's the whole reason why he got the deal in the first place, because he was playing good ball. The Achilles thing that was messing me up. I feel like since we've seen a few guys come back from an Achilles, we feel like everybody can do it. And it's still a crazy injury to come back from. It's very grueling and it's really, really, really tough. And I just don't think that at that age that a player like that can really bounce back from that. Father time comes and gets you.
Yeah.
Well, so the consensus is no, he won't play again, essentially.
Absolutely not.
Nah.
Well, I will say this: that's what, $40 million. Well, more than $60 million down the drain for the Atlanta Falcons. But
yeah, y'all gotta eat that.
I know they'll be happy to get off of them next year. So, but just moving on to our last topic, talking still about Atlanta, but more specifically the Atlanta Hawks, who are currently 3-0 over the last 3 games. My question to you both is, who is in a better position? The Atlanta Hawks right now, post-trade deadline, or the Miami Heat? Why, and whoever you say, why are they in a better position?
I'm gonna let you take this one, Malcolm.
Okay. I am a Hawks fan. We've had season tickets growing up about 5 years in a row. So I've been to probably more Hawks games than everybody on the chat combined. So I've seen them all. I love the Hawks. I always love the Lakers and the Hawks. I grew up in Jacksonville before I moved to Atlanta. My dad's a diehard Heat fan. With all that being said, this answer is going to pain me because I think the Hawks are better than the Heat right now. The reason the Heat, I think, are in a better position than the Hawks, there's uncertainty about the future of Trae Young. I think Trae Young's the best player on the Hawks and the Heat out of both teams combined, right? But I know Bam is going to be there. All right. I know Tyler Hero's going to be there. If the Hawks get bounced in the play-in or lose in the first round, get swept or something, it does feel like, because I follow Chris Haynes and I know Chris Haynes is close with Trae Young and his dad. So I could be reading more into it. I hope this don't happen. I got my man's jersey and I love Trae, but he wants to win and he might get frustrated. We just saw Luka move. If Trae don't want to be here next year, he's not going to be here next year. I know the Heat going to have the other two. So this year, I think the Hawks will beat the Heat, but I would say the Heat just because now I could argue both of their GMs ain't as good as they supposed to be. I think Landry Fields is good at, getting, trading for second round picks and stuff. He's got that on lock. If you need a second round pick, he's amazing at that. But actually I think Trae needs a big fish with him. Jalen Johnson going down hurts because Jalen Johnson is an all-star level guy. But I think Trae needs a big fish. Luka's playing with LeBron freaking James. Before that, Luka had Kyrie Irving. Before that, he had my boy Porzingis.
Yep.
Trae Young's best teammate has been either Jalen Johnson or DeJounte Murray, whichever one you want to, or John Collins. Those have been his best teammates he's had. I could see that rubbing him the wrong way, especially when you're seeing Wemby is in year 2 already getting De'Aaron Fox. Year 2, he's getting De'Aaron Fox. I mean, LeBron gets everybody. Jalen Brunson getting his whole college team and cat. Like, I could see Trae just saying, you know what, this is all well and good, but let me go play with, and NBA will see. Let me go to Minnesota. Let me go play with Ant, which will hurt me as a Hawks fan because not only Ant ain't a Hawk, but boy, if he wasn't there to go play with Ant, that'd be like 3 knives in the heart. So you hear the son is running the team, Tony Wrestler's son, Nick. I don't trust the Hawks front office. I don't. So I will say the Heat.
You don't trust the Hawks front office. I don't trust the Heat's front office. so like Pat Riley.
At least Pat Riley is seasoned, not Nick Wrestler. Nick Wrestler's older than younger.
No, Pat Riley is old. You know what I'm saying? So like it's not the fact that, and I respect what Pat Riley has done his whole career. He is the Godfather. You know what I'm saying? Like he is Hall of Fame royalty when it comes to what he's done for the NBA. But today, he lost me with that Jimmy Butler stuff, man. I don't. If you want to trade Jimmy Butler, I'm going back. I'm pushing back on that too. But you don't trade him for Andrew Wiggins. You don't not get Damian Lillard and then sign Terry Rozier. You don't not sign James Harden and then do nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like these are the issues that I have with the Heat, and I do believe. And remember, we played y'all in the play-in, and y'all beat us.
I remember that. But here's the problem. That was a promising year,
We lost our mind losing to y'all. We ain't had no business losing to y'all. All due respect. All due respect. We had no business losing to y'all. So like that's the thing. I was like, you're not building. You're not building. You're trying to draft these guys and trying to mold them into who you want them to be for as a Miami Heat guy. And I love that because the culture is there. I do believe like we get certain type of guys that just fit that Heat culture. Udonis Haslem used to talk about it all the time. I know he gets a lot of flack, and I know he gets a lot of jokes about him being on the roster all these years, but he was an extension of Eric Spoelstra. And here's another thing too, that I do believe that the Hawks are in a better position. Yeah, you talk about, trading Trae Young or whatever. Like you said, he is a better player than what we have on our roster currently constructed today. So if y'all do trade Trae Young, you're gonna get a ransom back for him.
You assume. You see, that's what me and
you better. You better.
you
better.
Assume.
So like,
because knowing Landry Fields, who I saw at Noble one time on Valentine's Day, he'll get a bunch of second round picks for him. And that's what scares me.
Well, I'll put it like this: you trade Trae Young, and hopefully you get something back that can, build the roster the way y'all want to build it. We're not building the roster at all. So, what is the plan with Andrew Wiggins? What is the real plan? I don't want to harp on Andrew Wiggins, but he hasn't been who we all wanted him to be coming into the league. And then he goes to the Warriors, and it's kind of like okay, cool. Like, he's kind of having a revelation up there. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's coming back, and he wins finals, plays really well, and then has a personal issue that I'm not really going to get into because that's not fair to him. But he hasn't really recovered from that. And with all the talent in the world we had from Andrew Wiggins, when he was with Minnesota, what was the issue with Minnesota?
Well, him and Jimmy didn't like each other because of work ethic.
Yeah, exactly. Work ethic. And that's an issue that I also have too. Like, you don't come with work ethic issues to a heat culture scenario, bro. It just doesn't work that way. So I will say the Hawks are in better position because y'all have some trade assets that y'all are willing to use potentially, compared to the Heat, where we're not gonna trade Bam, and we're probably not gonna trade Tyler the way we've been acting. So you don't trade Tyler for James Harden. You better not trade it for nobody else. And that was James Harden years ago. So I don't get it.
Well, looks like both teams are headed maybe nowhere fast. So we'll see after the season.
We both might be bad.
hey, I might have to start watching college basketball in a second, but
as a Hawks fan, you got to be hopeful. Looks like they have won 3 straight, so we'll see if that's the recipe for success going forward, and we'll see if either one makes it.
I do like them getting. I don't want to disrespect the trade. I do like Niang. I do like them getting him. And Karis LeVert, no scrub. He can ball. We know that.
Well, I think as of right now, both of the teams, the Heat and the Hawks, will be in the playoffs. So we'll see if they
play in. Hold on, play in.
Play in, playoffs. They'll
not the same thing. Go ahead.
But we'll see if they both can figure it out. But I want to thank you both, gentlemen, for hopping on. Like I said, the plan is to do this weekly, maybe bi-weekly, just so we can get this out here, just so we can talk sports. We have a wealth of knowledge between us three, and we want to show other people that we do know what we're talking about. But first, if you're watching, please follow the gentleman on the screen social. There is on the whatever is at the bottom of the screen.
Ticker.
Ticker. Yes, thank you.
No problem.
Follow Kendall. Follow Malcolm. Follow me. Also, please do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up. Share this. It helps me out. Helps the algorithm out. But appreciate you both. Thank you again. Go Hawks. Go Falcons. And all the above.
Thank you, Jay.
I appreciate it.
Peace.